Yes, yes, this is wonderful. Finally, after all these years, I can finish my haunted Halloween castle. For as you know, on this enchanted evening of Halloween, nothing is as it seems. Pumpkins are disembodied heads, trees are threatening strangers, and children are ghosts and goblins, and houses, even your house, can be a haunted house if you want it to be. Please, come closer, closer, and I will show you how to create your very own haunted house, or whatever it is you would like to haunt. You can create a fun and terrifying haunted house without killing your bank account, if you are smart and you think ahead. But first, you will need a central story. Vampires, creatures, werewolves and bats, boogeymen, mummies, zombies, black cats, pumpkins and scarecrows, knives that are gory. All of this is pointless if you don't have a story. A solid story or an underlying concept can create the best mood possible for your attraction. Sure, you could string together a bunch of boo, gotcha, but after a few of these, your patrons will get bored. So, the best way to avoid this is to impress them from the start. Remember, they deserve your very best, and you do too. So, create a story. Set the mood. The simplest way to set this mood is to have a greeter character and have him explain why he is there. Good evening. I am Count Dracula. Welcome to my house. Enter freely and of your own will. Tonight, you will experience one of the strangest tales ever witnessed. Get the idea? This is the first person your audience will see, so he will separate them from the outside world and bring them into your scary world. He or she will also put them in the frame of mind to be scared. The more anticipation you plant now, the easier for the horror to grow later. It's not always what they see that scares them, but what they think they see. Yes, yes, very well then. I, the Count, can count on you for your help? Good, good. Bye-bye then, Mr. Officer. If you don't want to get in trouble with the police, notify them. Ask them to help. You see, if your attraction is open to the public, all of those people can clog the streets. But if you notify the police, they can patrol and act as security. And they can talk to your patrons about Halloween safety. Of course, if you want to do a bigger display for the public, it is wise to get as many civic groups involved as possible. The Moose, the Elks, the Rotary, especially the fire department. These people can help you find a big space, supply actors, and provide security. And the scariest thing of all, insurance. It scares me. It scares me not. It scares me. Oh, you see, When you have an even number of patrons going through your attraction, they can pair up for bravery. But when you have a small, odd-numbered group, this always leaves an odd man out. This can create tension in an otherwise friendly group. Your greeter character can send that group through when the previous group is a safe distance ahead. It scares me. It scares me not. Oh, the head bone's connected to the neck bone. The neck bone's connected to the neck bone's connected to the... Oh, hello again. This little diorama is just to show you that not everything is as it appears. I assume by now that you have created a story and agreed to character. This is mine. Let's begin to create our creepy domain. Now the first thing every attraction needs is a wall treatment. Looky here. Mine is made from styrofoam, and the fake rocks are glued onto a big sheet of cardboard. Let my zombie workmen show you how it was made. Stone walls seem to be a perennial Halloween favorite. Get a large sheet of corrugated cardboard. Wardrobe boxes work very well. Look into a moving truck rental place or check the phone book for a box outlet store. The next step is to buy white bead foam insulation panels. These sheets are to be the actual stones, so draw your rock outlines. They don't have to be perfect, but they should be fairly large, bigger than a 3x5 card. As you cut them out, mark an arrow on the back to distinguish where the top is. That way, since they interlocked before you cut them out, they'll look like they belong together. After they're all cut out, place them back on the newspaper in their original order. You may want to wear a filter mask because you will be spray painting. Here's the neat trick. Using a can of flat black primer spray paint, spray the edges and some of the surface of each rock. The use of this kind of paint is important because it will eat into the foam and make a pitted rock-like surface. By hitting the edges a bit heavier, it will also round off the rocks. Allow these to dry. When completely dry, they may be attached to the cardboard. Place the stones onto the cardboard where you want them. Be sure to leave about ½ an inch between them for the mortar to show. Hot melt glue will work well to glue the rocks into place, but use care because it too will melt into the stonework. After they are dry, they can be tinted in colors with Design Master spray paint. It is designed not to eat foam. Most craft stores carry it in the floral section. Do not use too much. Just tinting in a color is more realistic. You can then use acrylic paint for aging effects. The cardboard should stand on its own. If it's leaning against a wall or solid divider, obviously this method has its shortcomings and should not be used where the patrons can reach. However, these walls will look great within your displays. Remember to always wear protective gear when working with spray paint or anything stinky. My motto, if it stinks, it's probably bad for you. Of course I'll still respect you. I'm only going to tell them how... Oh, hello. Now I'm going to tell you how to make your very own dead, decayed, rotting corpse. Oh, they're so touchy. This is how they all start out. Just a 5-foot-tall, blow-molded plastic skeleton. Blow-molded is a technical term for hollow. If you want them in a certain position, place them in it now and hot melt glue the joints. You'll need to take a trip to the hardware store and get a few things. First, look on the mismatched paint shelf for the most hideous shade of medium to dark brown latex or acrylic-based paint. Also, buy 1-inch disposable bristle brushes, not the foamies. You should have some black, brown, and light yellow spray paint. Now let's get to it. Hopefully old Slim is in the same place you left him before you went shopping. Slide some newspaper under him to protect your work surface. Having a vessel of rinse water handy is good to keep your brush in so it doesn't dry out. Use a brush saturated with paint to wet the toweling and push it into crevices of the rib cage. Now that you have an anchor point, you can paint the rest of his bones and lay torn towel bits wherever you want. Work them in with more paint over the top. Don't brush the paint on the towels, but tamp or dab it to work it in. You can also lay painted towel bits on wax paper and peel them off when dry and glue them on with more paint or even hot melt glue to make torn skin flaps. Don't build up too many wet paper towels at a time, or it will take too long to dry. Several layers are much better. To make shriveled eyelids and lips, tear off a piece of toweling and saturate it in paint as before. Then fold it in half and fold it again in a quarter so that when you turn it over, the bottom is thick and rounded and the top feathers off. These can be placed so as to create both the eyelids and the lips. When all the wet paper towel and paint has dried, you can accentuate the shadows with black and brown spray paint. Highlights too can be added with the light yellow spray paint, but be careful not to be heavy-handed. At this point, you can dress him however you wish. You can also add Spanish moss with a little glue. If you want hair, you can use one of those cheap, fluffy wigs. Just stick it into the wet paint and pull off the excess when it's dry, or you can hot melt glue it on afterward. Don't worry if your corpse is only 5 feet tall. Mummies are small, and dried-up people are kind of little too. Besides, what you have now is a top-quality prop you can use anywhere, year after year. Now, tombstones are as popular an item as corpses, and if you're making a graveyard, naturally you'll want to have both. If you're making an ancient-type graveyard, some small over-the-counter tombstones will be okay. But you'll want larger ones too, because remember, graveyards have tombstones that come in all shapes and sizes. The first thing to obtain is that styrofoam sheeting we talked about for making our stone walls. Packs of 3 by 1 foot sheets. The sheets might be 3/4 of an inch thick. If you can find them in a thicker size, get them. Check the mismatched paint rack again for a light gray and dark brown acrylic latex paint. If you have the black spray paint from before, don't buy any now. You'll also want gray auto primer spray paint. When you get to your work area, open all the packs of styrofoam and see how many layers of styrofoam sheets it takes to make a decent thickness, as tombstones go. The really old ones were kind of thin. When you've decided on a good thickness, take an entire sheet and drizzle hot melt glue onto it. Not too much, or it will melt through. Then, immediately lay another slab on top. Repeat this process until you have reached the thickness you want. You can make a paper template. Now, draw the shape of your tombstone onto the top sheet. Using a saw, cut your shape out. Be careful. Now sand the edges smooth with coarse sandpaper. Use 80 to 100 grit. When you have finished, the seam should be almost invisible. Are you happy so far? Good. Now take a large sheet of plain paper. Shelf lining paper is okay. So is newspaper. Write a simple name or design. Try to refrain from witty epitaphs. Using a mat knife, X-Acto, or scissors, trim the letters from the paper. When finished, lay the paper on the face of the tombstone. The center of the letters can be held in place with straight pins. In a vented area and on a protected surface, hose the letters with black spray paint. The paint will eat into the styrofoam and give you the look of carved letters. Once dry, remove the paper and you can use it on another stone if you wish. With that same spray paint, you may wish to distress the stone a little. Just spray some edges, some places on top, and let it dry. When the light gray is good and dry, dilute the dark brown paint by 70% with water so it's like a water-based stain. Then dampen the surface with a sponge or sprayer and apply a little paint. This is called a wet-in-wet technique, and it should cling to the nooks and crannies. If you find it's too heavy, dab some off with a paper towel. You can speed the drying time with a hair dryer. If you choose, you can also add drips of the stain. If you want a really aged effect, glue some Spanish moss near the bottom or drape some from the top. Ooh! Other accessories include urns and cherubs. These are made from papier-mâché and can be purchased at really good craft stores. Once the paint is dry on your tombstone, these accessories can be hot melt glued to the top. But your accessory must be painted gray now too. When that paint is dry, you can proceed with staining your accessory. Fencing, the sport of nobles, requiring split-second timing and agility and... Hello? Uh-huh. Oh, that kind? Okay. Wrought iron fencing. It seems to be around graveyards. If you want to make some, it's quite simple. Back at the hardware store or lumber yard, pick up some cheap 1x3s of pine. They're 8 feet long. If they're warped, it's okay. You're making an old fence. You'll need 2 8-foot 1x3s for every 8 feet of fence. Also get a length of 8-foot 3/4 inch Schedule 40 PVC pipe. This is the cheapest and easiest wall thickness to work with. Plan on getting 8 of these per a length of 8-foot fence. Oh yes, if you don't have flat black spray paint, you'll want some. And silver brush paint is a nice option as well. Once everything is home, take your 1x3s and mark off 10-inch increments on the wide side of all of them. Then drill a 3/4 inch hole at each mark, all the way through. Paint these flat black now and let them dry. Grab your PVC pipes and cut them in halves, 2 4-foot sections per pipe. When the wood sections are dry, push the pipes through a section of wood until about 6 inches shows on the other side. Now secure it with hot melt glue. This will look like welding when painted. When all the pipes are in one wood piece, we'll call this the bottom. Carefully align the pipes to the holes in the top wood piece and slide it into place, about 8 inches from the top end of the pipes. Once aligned, you may want to tap along the top wood piece until it is 8 inches down from the top of all the pipes. Then, hot melt glue around these to keep it all firm. Now is the time to paint the pipes. If you had painted them earlier, the paint may have scuffed, and the glue would not hold as well on paint as to the bare plastic. The fence sections can be lowered over 1/2-inch thick garden spikes to keep them upright. Using a bristle paintbrush, work all but a little silver paint from the bristles and dry brush highlights on the flat black fence. This gives it an added dimension of realism. Look! Now you have really cool wrought iron fencing for about $11 per 8-foot section. Not too bad. Again, cobwebs and Spanish moss can add an air of decay to this prop. Oh, you made this all by yourself? Oh, it's very self-expressive. I see what you were trying to say here. You're welcome. There are all kind of cobwebs you can buy over the counter nowadays. The ones that come in bags, unless you can stretch them out, will make your house look like a giant dust bunny farm. But here's an alternative that I love. Go to your local fabric store or supermarket and buy cheesecloth. Cheesecloth can be dyed, since it's cotton, stretched and torn very easily. I prefer to dye mine in shades of olive green, violet, light gold, and even pink. When you tie light twine to the corners and tie a piece of cheesecloth off between two areas, well stretched, you can cut out holes and tears or even stretch the holes out. Then you overlay a darker colored cheesecloth with larger tears and holes, and you have yourself a cobweb with real dimension. You can also use the same cheesecloth for old moth-eaten draperies. Very spooky indeed. Spirits of the beyond, come through to us now. Oh, spirits, spirits. You know, when you want a ghost to cooperate, you can never get one. So, I will make my own. First, you will need to go to your local hardware store and get some Schedule 40 PVC piping. Have the nice person there cut it into 4 pieces. One long piece, approximately 2 feet. 2 pieces, 18 inches long. And 1 6-inch piece. Then you will have to get yourself an X joint. Then you take the long piece, put it in the bottom. This will be the body of your ghost. The 2 18-inch pieces go in the side. This will be the arms of your ghost. Then the small 6-inch piece goes in top. This will be the neck of your ghost. I love necks. By this point, you should have something that looks like this. Ah! Now you take a styrofoam wig head, like this one here, and a can of black spray paint. With this, you make eyes and a mouth. The black spray paint will eat into the styrofoam for a extra spooky, ghostly appearance. You remember our PVC pipe body? By now, it too should be spray painted black. Like this. Now you take a piece of white cheesecloth that you purchase at the grocery store. Earlier we used it for cobwebs. Cut a hole and drape it over your ghost's skeletal body. Now take the ghostly head and place it on the neck. There you have a spooky ghostly apparition that will frighten even the bravest guest. Outdoors, people dressed in black and dimly lit can puppeteer your ghost, making it float through the night air. Wait, ghost, is it something I said? Here, ghosty, ghosty, ghosty. If you still need to contact the spirit world, I suggest a nice crystal ball like this one. It can glow with its own eerie light, like this. To make your own crystal ball is very simple. You will need a frosted glass globe from a light fixture, some soft aluminum wire, and a package of Christmas lights, battery operated. All of this is available from your local hardware or craft store. You take your glass globe and a plastic planter bottom, big enough to fit over the bottom of your glass globe. Now, take your battery-operated Christmas lights and hot melt glue the battery pack to the bottom of your plastic planter, like this. When the glue is dry, you will need to cut a hole in the bottom so you can access the switch. Then your planter bottom can be painted and decorated with rhinestones and little feet. Take your aluminum wire, bind the lights together, making a small Christmas tree. Then place your frosted globe back on top, and I predict your guests will be delighted and amazed with your crystal ball. The Mad Scientist Laboratory is a winner in almost any attraction. Most commonly found items include bubbling glassware, large electronic devices, a victim on a table, or in a tray, and weird lighting, and of course, the mad doctor himself. For the table of glassware, try to get an old, beat-up table. If you can't, I suggest covering the table you have with either a white or black piece of cloth. If you use white, you can put a little fake blood on it. As far as the glassware, I like large pickle bottles or jars with a wide mouth. You can run rubber tubing from these bottles to other bottles with different colors, or glasses, tumblers with rubber fingers, eyes, and body parts. Then hook the tube to an aquarium air pump for some impressive animation. Any glass jar with water can glow if you mix some fluorescent paint into the water. It won't take much, but it will give an eerie glow in any color under a black light. A chunk of organ meat from your local butcher is a nice thing, provided it's kept cold. See if they'll give you some of those white styrofoam trays they shrink pack steaks on. They can look a lot like enameled steel surgical trays. A skull is always lying around the lab. Those you can buy as model kits. Thrift stores have old, thick books and anatomical charts for sale. You have to ask about the charts because some won't display them. This isn't really high-powered electrical equipment. It's just a bunch of boxes with knobs and stuff glued on. Any size box will work. It's best if you paint them black or battleship gray. I like black because it hides any flaws in the cardboard. Don't forget to run wires to these. But you know you can use yarn or colored string just as well, and it's much cheaper. Now that you're surrounded by all your wonderful laboratory stuff, what does a scientist have to be mad about? After you have built your set, the next thing you will need to determine is where you need light. It is not necessary to light your whole display. Just train a few lights on the action or what it is you want your audience to see. Avoid using white light as much as possible. It is better to use colored lights. They are different and evoke a mood. If you are lighting a scene or a single subject, it is best to use this simple lighting scheme. 3 light sources. These are a backlight. This will illuminate your background, such as these stone walls we worked so hard on. It is best for your backlight to be a colored light, blue or purple for a nighttime effect, red or orange for a more hellish effect. Second, a side light. Train this side light on your main action, but from the side. This creates drama and shadows. And last, but not least, a front light. But remember, if it looks good without the front light, you don't have to use it. Remember, it's not always what your audience sees that scares them, but what they think they see. If you are lighting only one room or a single subject, you can get away using a clamp lamp, such as this. Clamp lamps are relatively inexpensive and available at your local hardware store. For a colored light effect, always use a colored light bulb or theatrical gels. Never use colored cellophane. It will melt. When plugging into an extension cord, make sure your extension cord is heavy-duty enough to handle the wattage of the light bulb you are using. If you are planning to use multiple clamp lamps, I suggest a power strip with a built-in breaker. You wouldn't want to blow a fuse. And lastly, always tape down your electrical cords. You wouldn't want your guest to take a trip unexpectedly. If you find you are going to use more than 4 or 5 clamp lamps or are doing a multi-room display, may I suggest an alternative? Malibu lights. They're low voltage and low heat, making it easy to insert a colored gel or even colored cellophane. They're small and lightweight, making them easy to use or even tape into place. Whether you use clamp lamps or Malibu lights, just make sure you use what best suits your attraction. Think appearance, think safety, and think with your wallet. This way you'll end up with a result that pleases both you and your guests. In a dark attraction, it is always a good idea for security to carry good flashlights. This way, if there is trouble or someone drops something, they will be able to readily assist. Also, if troublemakers exist, they'll be able to deal with them easier because they can see them. Always keep replacement batteries nearby. Batteries have a way of getting weak when you need them the most. Also remember, if you are going to use candlelight, it is best to use an electric candle instead of real fire. I love a good thunderstorm, but lightning is always quite difficult to do. But if your display is outside, here is a simple solution. First, pick an area you wish to have your lightning coming from. It should be pointing the same direction as your guests are looking. It could be on the ground, perhaps behind a rock or a tombstone. Now, get 2 strobe lights and set them on the slowest setting. No 2 strobe lights have the same rate at this setting, so when placed next to each other, a random flashing of lightning will occur. If you wish, you can place a blue gel over them. Now, secure them together with a piece of duct tape and place them on the ground behind the tombstone, behind a rock, or in the tree, whichever you choose. You can use the same duct tape to secure them in place. In the event of rain or heavy fog, you may wish to wrap your strobes in plastic to avoid their getting wet. This lightning effect is most effective when combined with a continuous soundtrack of thunder, like this one. You don't need a professional DJ setup to run the audio for your attraction. No, all you really need is a good home stereo with a tape player and maybe a couple of boom boxes. Remember, the important thing is the sound that comes through your speakers. So choose what's best for your attraction. Don't just throw in the Chilling Thrilling Sounds album. No, pick something that suits the purpose. Around Halloween time, there are many good CDs and tapes available. These are good resource material. However, I would not play them straight through. Use some bits you like peppered in with other sound effects. Obviously, a tape recorder is the next item you'll need. I suggest you lay out your to-be-recorded list in the order you want it to play. This way you can go from one item to the other, and your task should go smoothly. Also, a thrift store is a good source for an extra tape player or boombox. This way you can put them in specific rooms and bring the right sound to that area of your attraction. A neat trick I have learned is if you can in fact find an old 8-track tape player and recorder at a thrift store, you can record an endless thunder track and play it separately in the background of whatever you have as your main sounds. Thrift stores occasionally have them for less than $25. An 8-track tape is re-recordable, so you can make a loop over any old tape you could get from a thrift store. Old tapes usually go for 50 cents each. Make sure that the rubber wheel is okay and that the pressure pads are felt and not rotten rubber. As I mentioned before, tape players and boom boxes are wonderful for individual room use. It is best in these situations to use a loop tape, but if that is not possible, you can use a regular tape, for your actor will be there to turn it over when necessary. It is also a wise idea, whenever possible, to make duplicate tapes. The time invested in making a duplicate is a small price to pay for the peace of mind you have if something should go wrong. It is a good idea to keep these extra tapes in the rooms with the tape players that are using them. Keep the tape players in a place that your security people and actors know where they are, but at the same time, keep them hidden from the guests. This is easy to do, particularly in a mad scientist laboratory. But with a little creativity, you can hide a tape player or boombox almost anywhere. For most of your haunted house characters, you can use rubber masks such as these. But for the best facial movement and the best looking greeter character, you'll want to do a makeup job on your performer. There are many wonderful over-the-counter makeup kits available these days. I will show you how to apply an over-the-counter witch makeup purchased at a party store. In creating a witch using rubber appliances, for the best fit, don't just glue them on. Rubber pieces are called appliances because they're applied to the face or body. To get the best possible fit, stuff the inside of the nose with cotton or polyester batting. This will give it more shape and it will be easier to handle. Before you reach for the glue, test fit the nose in place. You may have to add or subtract stuffing for a good fit. When the nose feels like it fits really well and there are no buckles in it, take a sponge or powder puff and put powder all around the edge of the nose. This way, when you remove the nose, you can see exactly what the nose covers and how far out to put the glue. Now, stuff the chin in the same way as you did the nose. The chin may be harder to get to fit, so when it does fit, be sure to have the powder handy for marking the edge. Set the chin aside. Take your spirit gum and brush a healthy layer of it all around the inside of the powder mark on the chin of your subject. Try not to cover any of the powder if you can help it. If you don't have a brush for this, you can get a cheap artist brush for well under $1 at the hobby store. A Q-tip will also work in a pinch, but it will pull apart if the glue starts to set while you're putting it on. Also, apply spirit gum to the back of the rubber chin. Start at the edge and go in about half an inch from the edge. Allow both the rubber and the subject's glue to become tacky. When the spirit gum is very sticky, pick up the rubber chin by the front and place it on its powder mark under the center of the lower lip, which should still be visible. You can use a toothpick to lift the other edges into place on their marks. Try not to touch the sticky gum. If your fingers get sticky, clean them with a little alcohol. Use a sponge or powder puff and gently press the edges down all around the chin. Repeat this process for the nose. When applying the nose with the glue on it, it's best not to let the glue get really sticky. If the spirit gum is a bit slippery, the nose will slide onto its proper spot much easier. It is also best to fit the nose at the top or the bridge, and then match up the powder marks. After this is stuck down, it should be made up with the coloring from the kit. Then you'll need enough of this color for the entire face and neck. The cheekbones should be highlighted and a bit of hollow placed under them. You may want bright red lips or even black ones. The eyes can be shadowed under the brows. Then the eyebrows themselves can be made more scowling with a well-sharpened eyebrow pencil. Just make short, light strokes from the inner tips of the eyebrows toward the outer and upper end. You may even want to make them look pointy. Add a wig, and you're good to go. Remember, all that you dream up is new territory. You are the creator. All of the tricks and techniques you have been shown here have been tried and proven at haunted attractions from coast to ghost. Every effort has been made to provide easy-to-follow information, as well as planned methods to assist in building your haunted attraction. I hope that you have found, by making small modifications or combining some of these elements, you can create almost any character, scene, or scenario that you should wish. It is also my hope that this has inspired you to be creative and have fun with your project, no matter what its size. You may find that a neighborhood haunted house brings out the best in people. It certainly makes for a wonderful family activity. Halloween sets the stage to bring out the child in everyone. I hope that you have been inspired to help perpetuate the fun and wonder of entertainment in the macabre vein. Happy haunting, everyone! Yeah.